Now, firstly, I'd like to extend my gratitude to Yang Rahman, Perdana Menteri, for gracing us with his presence at Khazanah Megatrends Forum. 2024 marks 30 years since the formation of Khazanah Nasional Berhad. And in that 30 years, we have come quite a long way in our efforts to deliver our mandate, which is creating sustainable value for Malaysia and Malaysians. Now, indeed, as Yang Rahman Prime Minister reminded us during our Sesi Amanat in early September, now Khazanah has a dual mandate, which is to strike an optimal balance between playing its developmental role, prioritizing strategic value of its investments for Malaysia, and increasing commercial value of its investments. So we have to both raise the ceiling and raise the floor at the same time. In attempting to live up to our mandate and purpose, we believe firmly that knowledge is paramount to national development. And as such, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the 19th installment of Khazanah Megatrends Forum, a long tradition of Khazanah since 2005. Now, 18 years ago, in Pulau Jerajak, in south of Penang, Khazanah held a comprehensive internal leadership meeting to discuss a strategy for the upcoming planning cycle. And over the years, and thanks to Tan Sri Azman, the MD at the time, now this meeting took on a life of its own, encompassing so many components, including external speakers, structured discussions, covering important global trends, touching the corporate sector, social sector, policy development, and many more. Now, we realized that, that we had something that was, in some sense, too valuable not to be shared with appropriate stakeholders within Malaysia's various communities. And so the Khazanah Megatrends Forum was born, encompassing innovative and creative discussions about the forces shaping our world, and especially their impact on Malaysia. After a pause due to COVID 2020, we resumed KMF fully virtual in 2021, and have since decided to adopt a hybrid format for KMF. And so, for those joining us online, a warm welcome to you too. And although a hybrid format, I'm pleased to say that for this year, we have received the highest number of physical attendance RSVPs since inception. And thank you. And it's great to know that there remains a strong momentum and engagement from this community wanting to share in the knowledge from our speakers and wanting to participate in advancing Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, over the years, KMF has discussed many pertinent topics. A development bargain for the next episode in Malaysia's journey, the complexities of development, artificial intelligence, our collective brain, efficiency, growth, geography, paradox, and more. Now, when we tried to come up with themes for KMF, we really attempt to reflect on several things. Now, first, what's going on in the world, and after all, this is called the Megatrends Forum. And second, a sentiment of what's next and what is to come. In the past years, we have all done our best to make our way through a pandemic, geopolitical tensions, atrocities in Palestine, war in Ukraine, and rising inflation with higher for longer rates, a weakened global economy, a more polarized global community, and many more. But as recent economic indicators for Malaysia have shown, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And I would argue that we are emerging from that simultaneity of chaos, complexity, and contradictions. This is using phrases used so eloquently by Yang Rahman Prime Minister. Now, from that context, what we always try to do is to think of approaches we can use to navigate, and if we're skillful and fortunate, thrive in these scenarios. And so, we landed on the humble potato. Yes, that's the very same potato that we enjoy, whether it's fried, boiled, baked, or what have you. Now, actually, it's not something to be looked down on. Now, during the Alaskan Klondike Gold Rush in the late 1890s, potatoes were so highly valued for their vitamin C content that miners traded gold for potatoes, right? So our theme this year is Pursuit of Potatoes, Paving Paths from Probable to the Possible. Now, I'll try my best to summarize it here, but I strongly urge everyone to read the entire concept paper, which you'll find in our KMF website. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I've said before, our theme this year begins with the humble potato. But ultimately the mighty potato. Now, such an innocuous tuber, but with the potential to stave off peasant revolts, all by virtue of being productive and high yields in rice and wheat, being resilient, which is tolerant against bad weather, and adaptable, able to be planted in lands that were unsuitable for rice and wheat. So the next time someone calls you a couch potato, they're actually telling you you're a productive, resilient, adaptable. Yeah. Yeah. But on a couch. So if you think about it, in this complex world, those very attributes of the sweet potato in the Ming Dynasty, China, which is productive, resilient, and adaptable, are precisely how we may thrive. And the question for all of us is, where are our own potatoes? And to be even more action-based, how can we discover these potatoes? Now this brings me to the second part of the theme, paving paths from the probable to the possible. Yeah, so I know some of you may be wondering, hang on a second, shouldn't we go from the possible to the probable? Becoming more implementable, right, in a way? But yes, of course, that matters. But I also do think that sometimes we also get caught up in a trap where we overly focus on the constraints in which we find ourselves that we fail to think about the future. We fail to think about the future and work backwards. Now, if there's a Gordian knot, we need to consider what Alexander the Great did and cut the knot. And as such, maybe what we need more of is more imagination, more crazy ideas, rather than just limiting ourselves to what is textbook and immediately obvious. Now, to be clear, this is not to say that every idea needs to be some big bang invention. Now, many things are adapted from one space to another, and it is these collisions of slow hunches that we can lead to amazing things. And we mentioned the World Wide Web in the concept paper, but even your smartphone is an amalgamation of technologies delivered for other purposes, such as touchscreens, miniature computers, wireless communication, advanced cameras, and so on. To adapt a Malay proverb, sedikit-sedikit lama-lama jadi bukit. But nothing ever really moves forward in isolation, and we need everyone. And I've spoken many times about the need for collaboration. No single entity or individual, however influential or powerful, can solve things like energy transition, for example, by themselves. We ultimately go as far as our collective brain will take us. The collection of know-how we all have and how interconnected we are. Now, it takes everyone. And with that, we're very fortunate to have someone today with us who will talk to us about the theory of everyone, which is Professor Michael Muthukrishna from the London School of Economics, who will be giving the keynote address. Now, his wonderful book will be available for redemption during KMF. Now, taken together, this thesis of being collectively productive, resilient, and adaptable, like the potato, right? And to try to find imaginative solutions to complex problems. Now that's a powerful one. To be productive, resilient, adaptable, and innovative to nurture a nation that creates. But it's naturally easier said than done. And that is where, if we can imagine the people in this room and everyone else that we know as a collective brain, and if we understand a theory of everyone, and how do we pave the path from the probable to the possible, now, this, I believe, will form the bedrock of much of our discussion in these 2 days. So, ladies and gentlemen, Khazanah is shaped by our overall strategic goal of advancing Malaysia. And in executing on that strategy, we must, amongst others, ensure value creation in our companies that we have large shareholdings and invest strategically in solving issues that Malaysia faces via our impact fund, or Dana Impact, or through our energy transition platform, Lestra, produce risk-adjusted returns from our global investment operations, and deliver societal value to our ultimate stakeholders, which are the Malaysian rakyat. In everything that we do, we recognize that we are part of a broader ecosystem, and we are connected with others just as they are connected to us. And we must work with private companies, government, regulators, fund managers, foundation, NGOs, academia, and much more. And to that end, we have a session where we will be discussing collaborative efforts between government-linked investment corporations to try and drive domestic investments for economic growth in Malaysia under the Ministry of Finance's Gear Up program. But let me also say that what government-owned entities are typically criticized for, which is crowding out private players. Now, we believe that we also have a responsibility to crowd in private players and other stakeholders. Now, a clear example of this approach is the National Fund of Funds, where we embarked on, following the merger of Penjana Capital and MAVCAP. Now, rather than being individual LPs trying to support the development of the Malaysian venture capital ecosystem, we believe it makes more sense to attempt a coordinated approach, leveraging on the collective expertise of all our entities. Even for semiconductors, where there's a session today. Now, history has taught us that no one country emerged as a semiconductor powerhouse on their own. They required courageous entrepreneurs, savvy policymakers, forward-looking universities, and innovative SMEs that help form the ecosystem. And actually, in my experience at Khazanah, and indeed over my career, I found that the most fulfilling, impactful, and imaginative projects are those which are cross-collaborative across multiple teams. And as many of you know, we're tasked to rejuvenate Bangunan Sultan Abu Samad and Karkosa Sri Negara here, which is heritage buildings. And our objective is to make these buildings to be true community spaces, blending the past with the present and the future. And in doing so, we're working with a whole host of stakeholders, the Mayor's Office, Think City, architects, community activists, heritage societies, and many more. And this is all part of the Kuala Lumpur Creative and Cultural District. Now, even the reason we're all here today, the Khazanah Megatrends Forum, is about multi-stakeholder. We don't just invite corporate folks, although I think there are many of them here, naturally given our line of work. We also invite policymakers, academics, and civil society leaders. We want to bring everyone together, and we want all of you to participate in this knowledge exchange. And indeed, especially with a more virtual platform and sharing videos of sessions publicly, we have been trying to make KMF even more accessible and inclusive. So, ladies and gentlemen, to deliberate on this year's theme, we have 31 distinguished speakers from a diverse spectrum of countries and backgrounds with amazing stories, ideas, and insights to share. And as always, we try to be as holistic as possible in unpacking the theme. Our 4 established panel discussions will examine the theme from the perspectives of markets, firms, society, and people, and supplemented by other sessions. Our keynote address is by Professor Michael Muthukrishna, Associate Professor of Economic Psychology at the London School of Economics and Political Science. We will also be distributing Professor Muthukrishna's book, A Theory of Everyone on a First-Come, First-Served basis at the KMF for KMF participants. Now, the book is an ambitious and wide-reaching exploration of human behavior, culture, and social evolution. We also have two feature addresses by Professor Joseph Stiglitz, Nobel laureate and world-renowned economist, whose latest book, The Road to Freedom, will also be available for redemption at this KMF on a first-come, first-served basis. We have Dr. Alice Evans, a senior lecturer at the Social Science Development at King's College London, who will address on gender divergence and the trends in female labor participation. Now, we have 3 special sessions this year on India, China, where we aim to discuss the current and future development of both nations as major world growth engines. And semiconductor, we aim to discuss the upcoming opportunities for Malaysia's semiconductor industry and explore how industry players, investors, GLICs, and government can collaborate to elevate the industry to the next level. Gear Up, which is a program spearheaded by the Ministry of Finance that aims at synergizing across government-linked entities and catalyzing growth in the country. We also have 2 TED-style talk discussions. Innovation Without Borders. Here we journey together this year into the realms of aerospace innovation, cybersecurity, AI, and fusion energy. We have Malaysiana, this is my personal favorite, specifically about the significant impact that remarkable Malaysians are making in their field, inspiring change and steering our nation towards a promising future. And I'm also pleased to say that for those of you that are attending, we're back again with our regular Monday night cultural event. Now, the Monday night event is always something specifically Malaysian, a celebration of our arts, culture, heritage, and a popular counterbalance to many economic and business discussions. And I would also like to share that as part of our 30-year anniversary, we're publishing a special 30-year anniversary newspaper where we pay tribute and express our deepest gratitude and appreciation to all those that have made Khazanah who we are over the 30 years. And we've captured some wonderful, heartwarming stories of individuals who have built Khazanah, and I really do hope you'll all take the time to go through this newspaper. So, ladies and gentlemen, to close, I hope that you have an engaging and stimulating and productive time over the next 2 days, and that you find this 19th installment of KMF insightful, pertinent, and hopefully inspiring. And may we all find solutions that venture beyond just the probable, but also what is possible for ourselves, our nation, and our world. So welcome once again to KMF 2024. I would like to once again thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. And with that, I'm sure we'll all be looking forward to hearing Yang Berhad Prime Minister's opening address. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Yang Berbahagia Datuk.